all sitting comfortably. We've slightly reordered the beginning of the service. I'm going to read the prologue first, and then Stuart is going to play the piece of Bach from the Well-Tempered Clavier. Religion all circles around these 5 principles. Who are we? Sorry, these 5 questions, I should say. Who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? How should we live? And what, if anything, is sacred? That was written by Rutger Bregman, who was a historian, an American historian of Dutch origin, who believed he had incorporated answers to these questions in a secular form of faith. Welcome to all at our service this morning. We meet here to enter an altered state of consciousness, a sacred space of serenity beyond place and time. Let us imagine looking down on ourselves from above. We can see the greater scheme of things in which we live, detached from passions, ambitions, the daily toil, the common task. We can also see our fellow beings with the same detachment, our petty irritations, our anger, and even our hatred, replaced by understanding and love. Let our chalice now be lit, reminding us of that sacred altered state when we need it, for example, in times of stress, unhappiness, and despair. Thank you, Paul. Superbly managed. This altered state will be most easily available to us if entering it becomes a regular spiritual practice through meditation, contemplation, and engagement with those who can show us the way. Those who can show us the way are many and varied. They may be preachers, seers, visionaries, yoga teachers, historians, or philosophers. But they may also be painters, novelists, playwrights, filmmakers, sculptors, or composers. If they are good at their art, these people can lead us into a world where imagination becomes, for a while, more real than reality. The person who was most responsible for showing me the way to higher consciousness was Johann Sebastian Bach. That is why our incidental music today is all by that remarkable composer. This is rather selfish of me, but there you are. On every completed manuscript, he wrote Soli Deo Gloria, or SDG for short, to the glory of God alone. It has become clear to me that this was no mere formality. All his music was in some way or other intended as a gateway to the state of altered consciousness already referred to. But in addition, I found in his sacred music an expression of the inner meaning of the Christian story, which I might never have discovered in any other way. If Bach is not your thing, and for many that will be the case, you may like to compare my passion with yours and realize, if you didn't already know it, that artists of all kinds can show us the way as much as preachers and philosophers. So perhaps my position here is redundant. One last point on the music today. 3 of the hymns may be unfamiliar to you. Stuart will therefore play a full verse before we sing, and hopefully you'll have no difficulty in picking up the tune. I want now to talk a little bit about reason and imagination. Think of this scenario. A friend, unaware of your religious persuasion, wants to arrange a get-together and suggests a Sunday morning. You reply that you'll be at church at that time. You're met with a look which silently says, "How weird," or more openly with the remark, "Church, my God," NB, "My God, you surely can't believe all that stuff." You try to explain that Unitarians don't require you to believe all that stuff. But your friend is no longer listening. He or she professes to know you better than you know yourself. Does that ring bells with you? The fact is that church-going of any kind is regarded by a sizable part of the population as foolish, escapist, reactionary, and most of all, irrational. But what do they mean by that word, irrational? This morning, on the BBC Radio 4 religious programme just after 6 a.m., I heard Professor David Chandler of Westminster University, claim that unlike Judaism, Islam, Sikhism, and Hinduism, Christianity was unique in having a universal rational theory of war, propounded by St. Augustine and St. Aquinas. He was taken to task politely but forcefully by the Muslim member of a discussion panel who said he was astounded by Chandler's assertion and drew attention to an Islamic treatise on this very subject. I relate this story to demonstrate that the word rational and its derivatives, irrational and rationalist, have become weapons in an ideological war rather than meaningful descriptions. If you challenged your friend who described your church-going as irrational, he or she would probably say that you have no evidence for what you believe. You might then have the following conversation. You, okay, but what do you believe in? Friend, oh, that's easy. I believe in love. I believe in the essential goodness of human beings. I believe in peace and goodwill to all. I believe in equality, in democracy, in human rights, in diversity and in inclusion, in feminism. In sum, I believe in a better world. You, and what evidence do you have for these beliefs? Friend, well, come on, it's obvious. I mean, anyone can see that all the evidence supports these beliefs. You, okay, but what is that evidence? For example, what is the evidence that human beings are essentially good? I mean, aren't they a mixture of good and bad? Some more good, some more bad. And that's leaving aside what we mean by good and bad. Friend, well, bad people are just good people who have become bad through circumstances. You, that sounds more like an opinion than evidence. Friend, who by this time isn't feeling quite so friendly. So I suppose you're trying to tell me that there's no evidence for my beliefs. You, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So why do you suggest my beliefs are irrational, while you evidently maintain that yours are rational? I leave you to imagine the rest of that story. It seems to me that we would be much better served by considering all thinking as rational. Like other animals with developed nervous systems, we are capable of learning by using our reasoning faculty to make spatial, temporal, and emotional connections. We're just in general, but not always, a lot better at this than our cousins in nature. This advanced capacity to reason gives us a greatly expanded capacity for remembering the past and imagining the future. Some thinking is based on hard evidence, with no imaginative input. Some is based on supposed evidence with a degree of imaginative input. And some is based on no demonstrable evidence, where imagination does all the work. But imagination itself is based on real experience. And so it is not without reason. So we come to our first hymn. The accelerating expansion of knowledge, which has occurred over the past 4 centuries. I'll just read that again. The accelerating expansion of knowledge, which has occurred over the past 4 centuries, has not necessarily been accompanied by a growth in wisdom. Our first hymn sounds a warning on this score. Hymn number 57 in Sing Your Faith. God, you have given us power. God, you have given us power to sound depths hitherto unknown, to probe hidden mysteries and make them our own. Great are your gifts, yet greater far. This gift, O God, bestow, that as to knowledge we attain, we may in wisdom grow. Let wisdom thought be feared and spell, no fears that hate imparts. Let understanding to the mind, and with new minds, new hearts. Oh, for your glory and our good, may we your gifts employ. Lest burdened by the last of power, we shall ourselves destroy. The wisdom we particularly lack is in understanding ourselves, our fellow beings, and our place in the greater scheme of things. In this area, most of us, most of the time, are selective. We are afraid of upsetting our cherished ideas about our safety, our exceptional role as rational beings, and our ability to create a perfect world. The ancient Greeks described such confidence as hubris, or presumption towards the gods. If you think about it, this is not far removed from the story of the fall, Adam and Eve's disobedience towards God. With the myth of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, otherwise known as the tree of life, those ancient Hebrews were expressing in allegorical form an abiding truth. The discovery of Adam and Eve that they were naked is also an allegory for that. They discovered that they were vulnerable, just as we are all vulnerable. Knowledge is a two-edged sword. It may help us to negotiate life, but it may also expose us to despair. That is the tragedy of the human condition, as compared with other animals, as far as we can judge, who are not aware until the time of danger that they are at risk. In his poem Ozymandias, Percy Bysshe Shelley wrote about that tragedy. Ozymandias was a merciless tyrant, but the ruined statue he describes could equally have been a Mother Teresa. How are the mighty fallen, cried the prophet Samuel, but so also are the virtuous and meek. Nature makes no distinction. Ozymandias. I met a traveller from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal, these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. I expect you will have heard from me or another service leader the words of Matthew Arnold in his poem Dover Beach. He describes the demise of faith in similar terms. In one, the scene of desolation is the desert. In the other, it is the sea. I quote a little bit from it. The sea of faith was once too at the full, and round earth's shores lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar, retreating to the beach of the night wind, down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Our second hymn speaks of despair and its resolution. Hymn number 203 in Sing Your Faith, When Human Voices Cannot Sing. Voices cannot sing, and human hearts are breaking. We bring our grief to you, O God, who knows our inner aching. Set free our spirits from all fear, the cloud of dark unknowing, and let your light pierce through the snow and pathway of our going. Make real for us your holding love, the love which is your meaning, the power to move the stone of death, to heal us in our grieving. And let the one we love now go, where we in faith will follow, to travel in the Spirit's place, to make an end of sorrow. The book of Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, otherwise called the words of the Koheleth, the son of David, king of Jerusalem, is something of a mystery. An unidentified narrator relates the sayings of Koheleth, a preacher or perhaps a collector of sayings, from the derivation of the word Koheleth. The reference to the son of King David suggests that Solomon was at least the author of some of the sayings, if not the narrator as well. A refrain runs through this book, translated in the King James Bible as "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." This is not, as you might think, a reference to excessive pride, but rather to the conviction that everything is in vain. It is, in this sense, a pessimistic book, but perhaps a realistic one. Wisdom, like an inheritance, is a good thing. It benefits those who see the light of day. For wisdom provides protection, just as money provides protection. But the advantage of knowledge is this: wisdom preserves the life of its owner. Consider the work of God, for who can make straight what he has bent? In times of prosperity, be joyful, but in times of adversity, consider this: God has made one as well as the other, so that no one can discover what the future holds. During the days of my fleeting life, I have seen both of these things. Sometimes a righteous person dies prematurely, in spite of his righteousness. And sometimes a wicked person lives long, in spite of his evil deeds. So do not be excessively righteous or excessively wise, otherwise you might be disappointed. Do not be excessively wicked, and do not be a fool, otherwise you might die before your time. It is best to take hold of one warning without letting go of the other warning, for the one who fears God will follow both warnings. Wisdom gives a wise person more protection than 10 rulers in a city. For there is not one truly righteous person on the earth who continually does good and never sins. It's quite enigmatic, isn't it? But it's interesting. Let us now prepare ourselves for a period of reflection and stillness. I have chosen for my text a slightly edited form of the well-known Reinhold Niebuhr's Serenity Prayer. God, give us grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed. Courage to change the things which should be changed. And the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Living one day at a time. Enjoying one moment at a time. Accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. Taking, as Jesus did, this dangerous world as it is, and not as we would have it. Trusting that we will achieve serenity if we open ourselves to you, the infinite. Now let us be silent. We will now sing our third hymn, which speaks to the expansion of consciousness which we require to live wisely and fully. Sing your faith, number 213, where science serves and art inspires.
Inspires the struggling humankind. Their truth and beauty points to God's horizons of lives apart. Their love unlocks the doors of God's horizons of the heart, where mind and heart together thrust, the one who makes life whole. Their faith reveals in splendor God's horizons of the soul. O God, bring far horizons near, complete the search begun. So what we see and dream and what we do by grace are one.
There is no turning back the clock to what some see as the golden age of Christianity, before Galileo proved the earth was not the center of the universe, before biblical criticism proved the Bible was a human creation, and especially before geologists, and with their help Darwin, undermined the creation story in Genesis. From the second half of the 19th century, no thoughtful person could, without distorted logic, base their faith on strict adherence to dogma and creeds. No one, for example, could reasonably claim that the creation had happened 3,000 years ago. Geology shows that it was, well, millions and millions and millions of years ago. However, such a distortion of logic was precisely what most denominational leaders now demanded of their flocks. They were told to switch off their reasoning faculty and condemn Darwin and others for undermining their faith. By the way, I hope you've noticed the picture of Darwin as an ape on the back of your orders of service. It is easy to blame theologians for this attitude, but to them it must have seemed that the priceless jewels contained in Scripture were about to be discarded in favor of a cruel materialism. Or to put it another way, the baby was about to be thrown out with the bathwater. That was, and remains, the central dilemma for those who believe, as I do, that those priceless jewels are real and part of a tradition which is well worth preserving. The key to this is to stop seeing Scripture as an instruction manual and instead to regard it as a wonderful collection of stories and poetry, which, by the way, is not infallible, and which deal with the perennial questions of life in symbolic, metaphorical, and allegorical terms. We Unitarians have an advantage in working out how to do this due to our respect for individual judgment, though, mind you, this does have its risks. We are more flexible and more willing to explore new ways than our other denominations, which is why I joined this church 17 years ago And I expect it's why you have come to Unitarianism as well. I want now to pose two important questions, which I will attempt to answer. Number one, how is it that Christianity has survived, admittedly rather battered, for 2 millennia? The same question could be asked about the three millennial history of Judaism, the 1400 years of Islam, and the 2.5 millennial history of Buddhism. Surely, if these faiths were based on serious distortions of reality, they would soon have been exposed and gone into the dustbin of history. Within these same timescales, many ideas, opinions, and philosophies have come and gone into the mists of history. A widely accepted answer to this dilemma is to maintain that those in positions of power forced these religious people, it's all right, you can go that way. I go back. The people in positions of power forced these religions on the people against their wills. This isn't entirely untrue, but the trouble with such a theory is that history is full of uprisings of people against their rulers. And if the approved religion had been seen merely as the whim of an overthrown ruler, wouldn't they have jettisoned it immediately? I suggest to you a more plausible answer. Our human capacity is to enter into the past in the form of memory and forward into the future in the form of imagination. And this has consequences. History would not exist if we didn't have this capacity to remember and recreate. And the arts and politics would not exist if we didn't have this capacity to create imaginary worlds. The trouble is, imagination can easily conjure up horrors. We realize that we are unsafe and must die. Pain and disappointment are likely. We become aware that there is no rule book for life. We know we have to make our own decisions, but how? The search for a suitable partner is uncertain, and we are alone in our heads. Pondering long on this multiplicity of horrors, and we may lapse into the mental illness which is increasingly prevalent these days. So our first form of defense is to shut out these unpleasant musings. We stick to the sphere of mundane consciousness and exclude unwanted thoughts, using the defense mechanism described so well by Sigmund Freud. But as the existentialist pointed out so clearly, this exclusion comes at a cost. And by the way, Freud pointed that out too. We know, at least unconsciously, that disasters happen. Though we love, here we are. Those we love die. Treasured plans fail. And if we have no alternative consciousness into which to escape, and in which these horrors can be seen in their proper perspective, we are likely to go mad. Religion, like the arts, provides a way of engaging with harsh realities in a less threatening form. I use the analogy of the mind as a fortress surrounded by ramparts. Religion and the arts can breach those ramparts and, like an immunizing injection, give us an acceptably mild dose of reality, which protects us against an overload of horror. Incidentally, I think that the prevalence of violence on our television screens is in a way also a reflection of that phenomenon. We know that what's happening in these dramas on television is not real. And so we are in some ways immunized by that sort of exposure. We're not overwhelmed by it because, as I say, we can switch off the television or we can listen to the end and then just dismiss it from our minds, we think. The second question I want to ask is, why should we pay any more attention to Christianity than other religions? There is no rational way of putting religions into a hierarchy of excellence. The point about Christianity is that it is our own, the foundation of our civilization and the basis of many of our institutions. We are deeply embedded in it, even if we would rather we weren't. I mentioned in a previous service here that T.S. Eliot thought we'd need 300 years to invent a new religion. That was after he'd studied Sanskrit under a guru in India, thinking that he would like to become a Hindu. He learned much from that guru, but not least of which was the guru's advice. Go back and immerse yourself in your own Christian tradition. In 1947, the American Anthropological Association presented a statement to the committee drawing up the Declaration of Universal Human Rights. This bears on the same question of rights, which we cannot just dig up and transplant. Here is some of what its author, Melville Herskovits, wrote. The many ways in which man resolves the problem of subsistence, of social living, of political regulation of group life, of reaching accord with the universe and satisfying his aesthetic drives, has been widely documented by the researches of anthropologists among people living in all parts of the world. All peoples do achieve these ends. No two of them, however, do it in exactly the same way. And some of them employ means that differ, often strikingly, from one another. Yet here a dilemma arises. Because of the social setting and the learning process, the individual cannot but be convinced that his own way of life is the most desirable one. Conversely, and despite changes originating from within and without his culture that he recognizes as worthy of adoption, it becomes equally patent to him that in the main, other ways than his own, to the degree that they differ from it, are less desirable than those which he is accustomed to. Hence, valuations arise that in themselves receive the sanction of accepted belief. This should alert us to the limits of universalism, whether in its Unitarian or in its secular sense. We speak a great deal today about the virtues of diversity and inclusion. Our society is indeed being rapidly adapted to accord with this philosophy. Yet we seem unwilling to accept that that global diversity is not only inevitable, but healthy and desirable. I am well aware of you that some have come to Unitarianism to escape the straitjacket of conventional denominations. You are, of course, welcome here. But actually, even within the more conventional churches, there are many who think in the broader way about Christianity, which I have outlined. In the early 1930s, My father trained for the Anglican ministry, but couldn't accept the 39 articles of faith outlined in the Book of Common Prayer. He therefore became a teacher instead, though he later did become a lay leader. On a number of occasions, I have had the opportunity to mention this to Anglican clerics, and they have replied that they didn't literally accept those articles either. They simply regarded them as symbolic. And there I conclude my address. Let us now sing our last hymn, which sets to music a poem by Samuel Longfellow. The music was written. Get your place in the book. The music was written in 1797 by Joseph Haydn in praise of the last Holy Roman Emperor, Francis II, whose seat was in Vienna until Napoleon abolished the Roman Empire, Holy Roman Empire. It became the national anthem of Austria until after World War I, and after that, Germany adopted it as their national anthem and still have it. Earlier, curiously, Germany also used our national anthem, which Haydn had brought back to Austria from London. During World War I, therefore, both the Germans and the British were patriotically singing the same national anthem with different words, of course. There's a moral in that. But Haydn's favorite tune was his Kaiserlied of 1797, which he was found humming to himself just hours before he died in 1809. Let us sing, God of Ages and of Nations.
Every race and every time hath received thy inspirations, glimpses of thy truth sublime. Ever spirits in rapt vision past the heavenly veil within, ever hearts bowed in contrition found salvation from their sin. Reason's noble aspiration, truth in glowing clearness saw, conscience spoke its condemnation, while I while mine inward revelations told the saints their praise were heard, prophets to the guilty nations spoke thine everlasting word. God that word abideth ever, revelation is not sealed, answering unto our endeavor, truth and right are still revealed, that which came to ancient sages, Greek, barbarian, Roman, Jew, written in the heart's deep pages, shines.
And now, as we draw to a close, may the peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge and love of the divine, and guide you in all your ways. Have we noticed this?
I'm going to ask for the collection purses to be sent round during the notices. So any cash you have will be really much appreciated to keep our church on the straight and narrow and in the black. And if you don't have cash, there, of course, as always, is the card reader and instructions over there. So thank you, Francis, for, as always, guiding us skillfully and brightly through some very dense questions, lots to chew over. Thank you. Thank you to the two Stuarts. That's Stuart Lee for setting up, Stuart for playing the piano for us, and thank you to David, who's gone out to bring in our tea and coffee. Running through the week, as usual, Wednesday, there will be music and quiet reflection at lunchtime, starting at 12:15 with some music, then a cup of tea and a chat, and then 45 minutes of quietness in this sacred place. Friday lunchtime, oops. The Friday lunchtime concert is there's a big, in capital letters, new. So obviously somebody we haven't had before. Composer and pianist Neil Crossland presents the elegance of Haydn and Mozart, lyricism of Mendelssohn, and also the distinctive atmosphere of Erik Satie. That sounds brilliant. So do come along 12:30 on Fridays for 45 minutes. Next Sunday, our service will be led by our Minister Jennifer Sanders. And we have 3 volunteer rotas going on. One is to help with making tea and coffee after the service, which we will enjoy together. It's over there, so if there's a gap and you can fill it, please do. If you haven't done it before, you will receive training. And it's a good opportunity to just interact with people as well as help us in the church. There is the opportunity also to be, we've started this new thing at the end of Sunday services, which is to have a person who is usually in a Brighton Unitarian t-shirt to just be an information point for people who may be new or not so new and just have questions or comments. So that person is there to chat to. So if you're willing to do that, please just see me afterwards and I'll tell you where there are some gaps. I'm going to be the person today, but I'm not wearing the t-shirt. But please do ask me anything you want to. And finally, there is a rota to help out with the bar in the church that we run for various events during the Brighton Festival. And it's a really good way of the church raising money for itself. The profits come to us, and it also adds to the performances which go on here, because they have intervals and then they can have alcoholic or non-alcoholic refreshments. So I think the gap for the moment is on the 9th of May, next Saturday. In the early evening, 5 till 7. So if you can help with that again, please come and see me and we can fill that gap. So, finally, and I'm checking that Mike isn't here. No, he isn't. Good. A lot of you know Mike. He's been with us for a couple of years now. Sadly, as you will know if you've read the recent newsletter, he is leaving Brighton and going to live in Lancaster. So our loss is Lancaster's gain. Mike did his first service here a few weeks ago, and he's often sung for us in services or read poems. So we're going to miss him a lot. So there's a card there for people to sign to say farewell and good luck. And also a collection is being organised just to give him a small gift to help him on his way. The preference is to do a bank transfer, and I can give you details of that. It's in the newsletter, so the details of the bank account are there. If you only have cash that you want to give, then please give it to me, and I will make sure it goes to Jennifer for the pot for Mike. So that's our Mike. And then, of course, our Jeannie, who is going to be, on the 7th of May, 100 years old. It's quite extraordinary. Jeannie, we started signing the card last week, so if you weren't here last week or didn't sign it, please do. That's over there. And again, the same thing about a collection. If you'd like to donate towards a gift for her, preferences for the bank transfer. If it's cash, come and see me. I think that's it. So, yeah. Thank you very much for listening, and thanks again to Francis.